Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day number one of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship here at beautiful Softball City in South Surrey, British Columbia. And tonight, we have a couple of quality matchups on this diamond to end day number one of this 13-team tournament. The reigning three-time defending champion Galway Hitmen from Newfoundland, who are already 1-0 in the tournament, thanks to a victory earlier today over the Vanderhoof Moby Concrete Rippers from British Columbia. And tonight they'll take on 1-0, the Saskatoon Angels, who have brought a fine team to Surrey. And these two teams certainly figure to factor prominently between now and the championship final coming up on Sunday. My name's Peter Loubardius, along with the voice of men's fastball in North America. That's what I'm dubbing him the rest of this tournament, and for good reason, Mr. Blair Setford. Blair, I'm really looking forward to this matchup. When I saw the schedule come out, I had tonight circled, because not only this matchup, but the final game between the host team, the Sault Loggers, and the Toronto Batmen should be good. You take a look right there at Colin Walsh, who gets the call, Canadian national team member. Does not pitch for the national team very often, but certainly has had a great year, as you can note, in arguably the best men's league in the country, the Newfoundland Men's Softball League.
Yeah, Colin Walsh 10-0 with 111 strikeouts in just 62 innings pitched. He's dominating what, as you said, is the best league in Canada. Left-handed pitcher. And, Peter, this is just going to be a great matchup, because when you think about who are the pitchers that can beat this Galway Hitman juggernaut, one of them that comes to mind immediately is Devin McCullough, and he's got the ball for the Saskatoon Angels tonight. This should be a real good one.
Kalen Robinson set to lead things off for the Angels. He is their starting center fielder and takes strike one from Colin Walsh. Walsh was 5-0 at last year's Canadian Championship in their home province of Newfoundland. He pitched 30 2/3 innings, a 3.42 earned run average with 29 strikeouts and 8 walks. He had 2 7-strikeout games during the tournament. This is his 9th Canadian Championship. He's pitched in 32 games going back to the year 2012. Facing Robinson. And Walsh misses outside to his battery mate, the catcher of the Canadian national team, Ryan Boland. And a good swing, and fouls it straight back. Does Robinson.
Peter, the Saskatoon Angels come in with a 17-1 record in the Saskatoon League, which would probably rival, I think, the St. John's League for amongst the best in the country. Maybe those two are the two best. And the Angels right at the top of the league table. And, of course, led by Devin McCullough.
Pitch from Walsh misses just outside. Walsh is a fine pitcher, but he is a tremendous hitter.
Hitting in the 4 spot for this Galway Hitmen lineup, and you don't hit there by accident. He is the 2-time MVP in the playoffs right now for St. John's, too. He's earned every bit of that respect in the middle of the order from Coach Mark Dwyer.
Kalen Robinson having a quality at-bat as he looks to deliver the game's opening hit. And a strikeout for Walsh, who sits down. Robinson without number one. And looked like, Blair, it was a quality drop.
Yeah, he's got all three pitches, and he'll mix in a bit of a curve at times as well. And now we're just going to get a check from the home plate umpire. I suspect this is probably related to the pause. You do have to have a pause built into your motion. Colin looked like he was pretty fluid there. Ryan Boland was out with the home plate umpire to have that visit. That is Chris Carroll behind the plate from Ontario. Over at first base, it's Kevin Wallace, who is the USA softball exchange umpire from Illinois, and Mark Taylor from Alberta is at third base for this one.
Hard ground ball, no trouble whatsoever for national team member. That is Shane Boland, the brother of catcher Ryan, and retires veteran Derek Arsini, who's played in 8 Canadian Championship senior men's events. So quickly, Walsh induces a couple of outs, and now set to face the opposing pitcher, Devin McCullough. And McCullough pops this. Not an easy play for Justin Gill, but he makes it. That's the defensive play of the day so far. Justin Gill going back on a ball, and this is not easy. Well, you might say where there's a Gill, there's a way. Oof. The Galway Hitmen batting when we return to beautiful Softball City after this. A 3-up, 3-down first inning for the Galway Hitmen, the 3-time reigning champion. A little grub on display. Could use a little grub right about now. Although in my case, should probably miss eating for about a month and a half. Devin McCullough set to get the call. An elite pitcher. There's no doubt in my mind what would have to be the career highlight for Devin. It came in his home park of Bob Van Impe Stadium. Came on in relief with Canada trailing New Zealand in the championship final 5-0 and shut the door the rest of the way. I call it the Steve Mullally show. I think it's one of the greatest Canadian single game performances in sport ever.
I've heard you say that on the Twos podcast, and I gave it a little bit of thought, and I think you're absolutely right. It is Paul Henderson-like in its stature and deserves to be talked about in that light.
Well,
and then the job that Devin McCullough did picking up for Sean Cleary, who had a tough outing. New Zealand jumped on him. And that was not an easy lineup. And in front of his home crowd, I talked to Devin after that game, and he said that's as nervous as he's ever been out on the board.
He was incredible and trying to deal with this elite lineup for the champions who are back and might even be, I would argue, even more powerful than the team that won it 1 year ago in St. John's. Shane Boland facing Devin McCullough, who is from Saskatoon. This is his 34th game of the Canadian Senior Men's Championship. 11, 12, and 2 lifetime for the Canadian World Champion back in 2015. Played at the World Championships for Canada in 17 and 19. Did not play in the most recent one in New Zealand at late November and December.
Devin was a late scratch from the team and replaced by Ty Sebastian, who went on to have a very good tournament for Canada. Devin remains in the 40-man roster, and I think he's probably even on the 25-man short list. So I think that we have not seen the last of Devin McCullough in a Team Canada uniform.
I would say this is a big week for him. And you know he wants to be back on that national team. And think about where two of the next major world events are. They're 90 minutes up the road in Prince Albert. A World Cup qualifier will be played there next year. And then the World Cup of men's softball will be played in 2025 in Prince Albert. So you know he wants to be back there in his home province. Throws a great high rise on up-and-coming Canadian star Jordan Pomeroy. Had a marvelous tournament in Denmark, Wisconsin at the recently completed ISC World Tournament, hitting better than 300 for Bear Creek, who went to the final. And Blair, as you mentioned, in a 6-1 loss to Jack Besgrove and the champion New York Gremlins, he touched up Besgrove for the only run in that game for Bear Creek. It was a solo home run.
Yeah, he hit 2 home runs off of Besgrove in the tournament in his last at-bat in the Thursday night winter bracket semifinal and again in the championship game. So he comes into this on a roll.
And McCullough wanted that desperately. On the outside corner, it was not given to him. So a leadoff walk. And now Pomeroy, who I don't believe had a hit in the first game earlier today. Nice work behind the plate to keep that ball from getting away by veteran catcher Derek Arsini.
Yeah, pair of groundouts and a pop-up.
So he was 0 for 3. And I wonder sometimes, not to take anything away from what he faced in game number 1 against Vanderhoof, but now you're back coming off the ISC tournament to facing an ISC, literally world-class pitcher in McCullough. And a great pitch. Looked like a low rise in the outside corner to get Pomeroy. And painted the corner beautifully, did Devin McCullough, for out number 1. And now facing one of the great hitters on planet Earth, Brad Ezekiel, the 36-year-old. Had a couple hits and a mammoth home run earlier today that didn't clear fence number 1 in left. It cleared fence number 2.
Yeah, because it wasn't enough just to hit it over the home run fence. We had to hit it over the perimeter fence as well.
Ezekiel with 7 home runs and 15 runs batted in last year's tournament. Working on more of the same here in British Columbia in the first Canadian Senior Men's Championship played ever in the Greater Vancouver area, and first in British Columbia dating back to when Prince George hosted this event in the year 2006. 1 out and a favorable count for Ezekiel. And he had a good rip at that, but missed the rise from McCullough.
And that's the pitch that Devin McCullough will rely on. The changeup is world-class. We all know that was the pitch that won the World Championship back in 2015. But he'll throw the rise ball probably 55-60% of the time.
That looked more like the drop to even the count on Ezekiel at 2-2. Brad has now driven in more than 100 runs at this event after 2 more today, dating back to the year 2011. And those totals can be added to because he played in tournaments prior to 2011. Longtime member of our national team. His first World Championship in the year 2013. 2015, 2017, 2019, and 2022. And hit arguably the biggest home run of his life to win the Pan American Games gold medal in Ajax, Ontario against Venezuela in a year where he won Pan American gold, the World Championship, and the Canadian Senior Men's. It was a 5 spot, right?
5 spot because added to
he
those
won the
three
ISC
were the
as
ISC
well.
And the USA Softball National Championship. They set the goal early in the year, the guys from Newfoundland who are also on the Hill United Chiefs, and they won every single one of them.
Incredible. Try to win again here. A full count down the line and caught by James Shirley. And the name Shirley has large ramifications in sports in Saskatoon. I believe it would be his grandfather, Jim Shirley, who was an NHL player back in the 60s. And Jim Shirley, for many years, ran the grounds at Gordie Howe Park.
It comes by this honestly.
On the ground, in fair territory, and Colin Walsh goes down as Taylor Hill makes the play over to first. No score through 1 in this battle of 1-0 teams on day 1 of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship on the home for softball, Softball Premier TV. No score. Saskatoon Angels and the 3-time reigning Canadian champion, Galway Hitmen from Newfoundland. Colin Walsh set to work his second inning. Posted a 1-2-3. Top of the first and getting set to face Matt Kutnikoff, who's from Prince Albert, who will lead things off. This tournament exciting for so many different reasons, and one of the reasons is a number of young players who are really starting to come into their own at the senior level. Matt Kutnikoff played at the U23 World Cup in Argentina earlier this year. Of course, because of COVID, it wasn't technically, it was more of a U25 tournament than it was a U23 this time around.
Yeah, that tournament was U23 in 2021, and they extended the age by a couple of years for the players who were originally eligible at the time. Matthew Kutnikoff, Riley Mannion, some of the examples on the Canadian lineup, and there were others in the other international lineups as well. But still a great tournament.
Kutnikoff coming off a quality 2022 Canadian Championship where he hit .357. Boland, that quick release, and it's effective again for out number one.
Ryan is so smooth here. Watch how quickly, as you said, with the quick hands, he transfers the ball from the glove over to the throwing hand, snaps the wrist, and easily across the diamond, and on target too.
Justin Laskowski's from Warman, which is a community just outside Saskatoon, and boy, has it grown. Saskatoon has grown. Growing up there, it was a city for a long time that was in the neighborhood of 170,000 people. It's now in the neighborhood of 300,000. There's Laskowski. Ball one and one strike to the 26-year-old. He played for Canada in the World Junior Men's Championship back in 2016. And he wanted to send that to Rancho Cucamonga.
Just down the road?
Just down the road. A ball and two strikes. Laskowski was 8 for 14, 444 at last year's Canadians, and had a good quality cut at that 1-2 pitch. In fact, one of his 2 home runs in last year's tournament came in a game against the Galway team. He had 3 multi-hit games in last year's tournament. Right back at Walsh, who's a good fielder and underhanded, and there are 2 away. The right fielder, James, on the lineup card, it's Jimmy Shirley. And Shirley swings and misses on the Walsh pitch.
James was going to be on the U23 team, but came down with a shoulder injury and did not get any real significant playing time. He was on the injured list basically for the bulk of the trip, which was unfortunate because he's got a good bat, and that would have been something that would have been very helpful for Canada in the middle of their lineup.
Did start the event, I believe. But yes, he's another youngster within reason. He's 25 now. On the Team Canada player pool list. So for these types of players, this is a really big week and another opportunity. Of course, you know, the ISC was just completed. A huge stage, and Colin Walsh has been on the biggest stage that this sport offers. And showing why even tonight as a pitcher. He's faced 6. He's sat 6 down. To the bottom of the second when we return to beautiful Softball City in South Surrey, British Columbia. Blair Ezekiel, one of 3 Ezekiels on this Galway Hitmen team, and they are all high-level players and have been for a long time. Blair might like to have that swing back. Played in 10 Canadian championships where he's averaged .365 coming into the tournament. Had a hit earlier today in their resounding first game win. And facing Devin McCullough. McCullough walked the first batter he faced and then retired 3 excellent hitters. This is one of those lineups where there are no breaks. 1 through 9. A ball and 2 strikes to Blair Ezekiel, who hit .409 at last year's Canadians with 9 runs batted in.
Blair has played at such a high level for so many years and in so many events, too. It's very rare that you'll go through his stat line and see an off event.
I'll mention it on our game earlier as he rips this, but it's going to go foul down the left field line. Have to dig a little deeper into the archives. But he drove in 20 runs in the 2019 tournament. And I cannot imagine that anyone, maybe ever, dating back to the first year, which I believe was 1965, that anyone has ever driven in more than 20. Now, it is possible. But if it's not 1, it's got to be 2. There's that changeup that Blair Ezekiel that went off the knob end of the bat. Now Blair's going to start looking up Canadian records. Been there, done that, tried it. Maybe you'll have better luck than I will. I know somebody who does a pretty wonderful job on the ISC record book. Would you know who that is?
He might be sitting at this table.
I love my book, by the way. Ripped fair by Blair Ezekiel for an extra base hit. He'll make the turn, and he's on his way to third. Ezekiel standing with a leadoff triple here in the top of the second.
Blair Ezekiel was looking for a stop sign coming around second base, and Mark Dwyer said, keep coming, and Blair Ezekiel is huffing and puffing over at third base right now.
First runner in scoring position in this matchup of teams on day 1 with 1-0 records. And catcher Ryan Boland steps in. Captain Canada. And he'll drive that foul.
So that's stand-up triples rather in the back-to-back games for Ryan Boland and Blair Ezekiel. I did not have that in my line.
Boland looking to cash in the game's first run. This is an important game in this pool. They're going to come home, and the runner is out, and he doesn't like it. Thought he slid around the tag, and the head coach coming to make his point. We're going to give you another look.
Watch Derek Arseny spin around. I think he gets Blair on the foot before he gets to the plate right there. Here it is again.
Laskowski the throw. Arseny. Does he get the back foot before the front foot touches? I think he might have. That is really close. So 4-2 on the scoring play for the out. And a big out in this game. Might be a turning point to look back at depending on how things go. Ezekiel number 3. This is Kyle from Holyrood, Newfoundland, in his 69th career game of the Canadian Championship, dating back to 2011. And the curve inside for a strike with rise movement on it. And Mr. Setford is on record watch after the talk about Blair driving in 20 in 2019. Do me a favor. If for some reason you find it and find the year, don't tell me and then let me guess. Okay?
I don't know about
we can play that game as McCullough with a strikeout is second of the game to get Kyle Ezekiel. And there are 2 away, and the complexion of this inning has changed. Justin Gill, the batter, who made a marvelous catch. Or this is first off, before we get to him, let's not forget about Sheldon Keogh. Keogh had 2 extra base hits, a triple and a double in their first game against the Vanderhoof Moby Concrete Rippers. And McCullough starting, it would appear, to get into a bit of a groove after giving up the leadoff double or triple in this inning. Did you track it down?
I've got the winners back to 65. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised that they've only got tournament history back that far. We'll pick that up later.
Yeah, well, it goes way back for sure. Nobody needing to pick up Devin McCullough. He bears down, got a great play at home plate, and it remains 0-0 Saskatoon and Galway in a quality matchup on day 1 on Softball Premier TV from the Canadian Championship in Softball City, South Surrey. Darren McCullough, the brother of pitcher Devin, leads things off for Saskatoon in the top of the 3rd. We've got a dandy going. On one hop, Shane Boland in plenty of time.
It's already Shane's 3rd chance of the game, just 7 batters into this. He seems to be a target.
They've always admired the quick release. And we've seen it shown off a couple of times. Here's Jordan Hudson. Saskatoon shortstop takes a changeup high and out of the strike zone. Jordan Hudson, another player in Team Canada's pool. The 24-year-old. And he participated in that U23 moved tournament in Argentina that you were lucky enough to call. Did not have a hit in 6 official at-bats and will not have a hit on this at-bat, right back to Walsh.
But he's another good young prospect in
Absolutely.
the Canadian pipeline. He can pitch, he hits. He spent the season on the ISC tournament circuit with the Waterdown Hammer and gathered some valuable experience playing against the likes of Hill United and the Stompers and the rest of the top Ontario teams, Bear Creek Express, over the course of the season.
First baseman Brett Casey. In the time that you have watched Walsh pitch, I've watched him play more away from pitching. What can you offer up in terms of his strengths in the circle?
He's got all three pitches, but he moves the ball well in and out. He's not going to overwhelm anybody with pace, but he does throw decent pace. And he's just smart out there. And that's the big thing with Colin is he knows what his limitations and his strengths are, so he plays to those strengths. And pitching to Ryan Boland like that, you just saw what he did to Brett Casey there. He went outside, outside, inside. And that is going to be the strength of Colin Walsh. That's what's going to make a difference for him.
Well, Colin has faced the bare minimum so far through 3 innings. Still looking for the game's first run on opening night of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship in Surrey, British Columbia. Some of the fans gathering here. And I expect the crowds for this event to build as the week goes on. Justin Gill made a terrific defensive play in the first inning, going back on a ball over his head at second. Certainly the best play, Blair, we have seen on day number 1 from a defensive standpoint. Now he's batting, tries to drop down a bunt. Just for a second, I thought that was going to roll back in with the spin fair.
Well, Brett Casey over there at first base, he was pretty nonchalant about that when it got into foul territory. I was thinking the exact same thing you were because it had a little bit of spin, and he needed him, I thought, just to be a little bit quicker to make sure that that stayed on the foul side of the line.
Well, Justin Gill was prevalent on the offensive side of things in their first win today. But he had no answer for that pitch from McCullough. Strikeout number 4 for Devon.
3 in a row as well, as he got the last 2 to end the second inning, and now Justin Gill here to start the third.
Shane Boland walked. He did score a couple of runs in the game earlier today. And this is a great matchup, as are many when McCullough is facing this lineup. World class. And the 0-1 pitch is inside and out of the zone. 1 ball and 1 strike to Shane Boland. Won a world championship in 2015. Part of that group that you talked about, the Fab Five, winning 5, were the guys who were on those teams and won 5.
Well, Shane was actually with the
because that's right. He was not part of the Hill United team.
No, he is now. He is now with the Chiefs, but 2015 actually was with the Toronto Gators that year. Came second at the ISE that year.
So he was trying to spoil it for his other buddies, but couldn't.
But 2016, Shane Boland, 3-run home run, walked off the ISC World Tournament. The famous video of Shane circling the bases with his arm up in the air. He would like to.
Ooh, a hot shot. Well handled by Taylor Hill. As that got to him in a hurry, you just saw why they call it the hot corner.
One hop right at him. Watch how quickly this gets to him.
Nice work by Hill. And Jordan Pomeroy looking for his first hit of the Canadian Championship, the 2023 edition. I don't think we'll have to wait much longer for it, but every player being tested tonight.
Well, Jordan's hitting a lofty 394 in the St. John's League, so we know he can put the bat on the ball, and he is very quick. You cannot bobble the ball on Jordan Pomeroy in the infield.
I'll probably mention it in every game, and because it's the night game, I have to mention it now. Just check out Jordan Pomeroy, that's Pomeroy on your phone. Great catch, Mitchell, Ontario, earlier this year.
Maybe if we give Luciano some warning for the next time we have Galway on, we will get that clip played for everybody.
I like how you think.
It is worth watching, folks. You can find it on Twitter, on various other social media platforms. It's worth the 30 seconds of your time to go watch it. Just a spectacular. You will not see a better catch this year, I'll tell you that right now.
I don't know if you'll ever see a better catch in the sport.
It's up there. It is top 10 worthy.
Incredible play that he made at that ISC qualifier earlier this year, and there's a sensational change of pace offered up by Devin McCullough.
And it's interesting that they are going to it because Devin pitched against one of the Ontario teams in the World Tournament a couple of weeks ago, did not throw a single changeup.
Pomeroy, a defensive swing, almost to get out of the way, and popped it right back into the glove of McCullough. A pitcher's duel is 3 innings in. There's been 1 hit in the game, but no runs. We'll continue right after this on Softball Premier TV. Top of the order is Colin Walsh, has faced the minimum 9 so far. Kalen Robinson, the Saskatoon Angels center fielder, struck out to start the game. Not this time. Little juggle, and that little juggle just enough to allow a speedy Robinson to get down the line to be safe.
You watch it here. Shane Bowen double clutches. Just can't get the ball out of the glove. And that just a split second, and that was all it took, as Peter said.
So the Angels have their first base runner. Have to wait to see what it is called, either a hit or an error. And Arsini being asked to potentially bunt the runner over.
I'm sure, well, they've gone with hit. I was just about to say that I'm sure there's a great debate downstairs, but they went with hit.
So Walsh gives up his first hit and now recovers and could have turned it into a double play, but the throw got away, and I think the double play was there to be made.
Oh, absolutely. If he doesn't throw that one into the dirt, they've got him cold. He was 12 feet off the base and leaning the wrong way. You can see it there, and Walsh kind of sidearms it. He didn't plant the feet, as Joe Todd likes to say. If he plants his feet and makes a strong throw there, they've got him cold.
Made an excellent play to go back on the ball to field it and catch it. Didn't quite get himself perfectly set to throw. So Robinson avoids being doubled up. Now trying to steal, nobody really at the bag.
Yeah, late call from the bench, I think, and neither Bolin nor Gill were anywhere near the bag in time. And then I think some confusion over whose bag it was anyway, because they both went. Throw was on the left side. I don't think they were going to get him anyway.
And look at Ryan Boland. He wasted no time to go out and say, hey, let's make sure we handle this a little better the next time.
Yeah, you actually expect a little bit better than that out of this veteran-laden team, especially the guys on the field right now.
So the opposing pitcher with a chance to open the scoring, and he's more than capable. It's not going to be an easy play, and Devin McCullough beats it out, and that is not going over well. And Devin wants a runner, and I think he has a pretty good in with the coach at third.
Well, let's see the play here. I thought he beat it out. That was my initial reaction, was that he was there, but boy, that's bang, bang, isn't it? I think he's there.
Very close. Runners at first and third with one out. And a pinch runner, which Devin was quick to ask for.
I need him to turn around so he can see the number. 20.
Is that Ryan Bicknell? I'm going to guess that's who that is.
You are correct, sir.
Oh, my goodness. Thankfully, that foul ball didn't hit someone, and it could have, coming over from the other diamond. So, Devin McCullough with a base hit, back-to-back infield hits. In between, a popped-up bunt that could have turned into a double play, but didn't. So, Matthew Kutnikoff with a great chance to open the scoring, and he's going to do it. The Prince Albert product. An RBI single has the Saskatoon Angels in front of the three-time defending champions from Newfoundland. And hit it in a spot where no one was going to get to it.
Sometimes you don't have to hit it hard, to your point. You just have to hit it where they're not, and that's exactly what Matthew Kutnikoff did right there into the little Bermuda Triangle out between Shane Bolin and center fielder Brad Ezekiel.
And Leskowski had a good rip. There's 3 hits in the inning and a run for the Angels.
Well, Justin spent the last couple of years with the Circle Tap team down in Wisconsin and has gotten to see a lot of really good pitching on the circuit. So he's not at all uncomfortable facing a guy like Colin Walsh. Team Canada member. He was a mainstay in the lineup at the Pan Am qualifier earlier in the year in April, and started in New Zealand, but gave way, went a little bit cold. He hit the ball well in the pre-tournament that they had up in North Palmerston, but the bats went a little cold for Justin later in the tournament down in Auckland.
He was 3 for 15 at the Worlds. He did have 4 runs batted in. 3 of those runs batted in at the Worlds came in a game against South Africa when he went 2 for 4 in that game with a double. He'd love a double here. It's the Saskatoon Angels with a 1-0 lead in the top of the fourth. And Walsh maybe with one of his best pitches of the evening. Like it had a little curve action to get Laskowski with an important strikeout and out number 2 of the inning.
Well, that's a big out because that's an experienced batter.
James Shirley takes ball number 1. Shirley struck out against Walsh to end the top of the second. The 25-year-old from Saskatoon. Best game at last year's Canadians was a 2-for-3 performance against Biggs Physio from Newfoundland. That team is here. This is going to be Gill ranging over to end the inning. However, the Angels in front of the Galway Hitmen. It's 1-0 as we head to the bottom of the fourth here in South Surrey. Well, the Saskatoon Angels strike first. Scored in the top of the fourth on 2 infield hits and a bloop single by Matthew Kutnikoff to give them the lead. And here's someone who can change that very quickly in Brad Ezekiel. He flew out to James Shirley in right. Brad already has a massive home run today in their opening game win. In fact, they're in the middle of a doubleheader today.
Effectively just sandwiched around the opening ceremonies, yeah. And that's a little odd at a national championship where you are asked to play back-to-back.
There's a couple of those I noticed in the schedule this week. A lot of games to be played with 13 teams. Is Ezekiel in a 1-1 count. And if I label Brad Ezekiel this way, I started calling Canadian star hitter Kelsey Harshman a professional hitter. Well, this guy, he's a professional hitter.
Yeah, Bradley has been amongst the top 2 or 3 hitters, not just in Canada, but he's been among the top 2 or 3 hitters in the world for the last 10 years and shows no signs of slowing down.
Blair, I know that I've talked a lot about Brad today, and for good reason, but he would be in consideration, I think, if you were to name an all-time men's fast-pitch softball all-star team.
There'd be a lot of competition in center field, but Bradley Ezekiel would absolutely be in that conversation.
Ooh, and that is a tough play as it eats up shortstop Jordan Hudson.
Yeah, you see it here in the replay. He got a really tough hop. It came up and hit him up in the shoulders. Right there, it comes up right in the shoulder. Can't get the play at second. Strong throw to first, but Colin Walsh runs very well.
That has got to be scored, a base hit. So as you might expect, the Champs down a run and come right back with back-to-back hits to start the bottom of the fourth. Blair Ezekiel drops down a bunt and a beauty that'll move both runners up 60 feet. So he tripled his first time up, asked to lay down a sacrifice, and you can't do it much better than Blair Ezekiel just did right there.
The old-timers in the game are smiling. That is some old-fashioned, old-time fastball right there. Get them on, get them over. Now you got to get them in. The power hitting is so prevalent in today's game. Many club teams just don't bunt in that situation. Blair Ezekiel shows that he can handle the bat no matter how you ask him to do it.
So 2 runners in scoring position for the catcher, Ryan Boland. Hit into a fielder's choice, or reached on a fielder's choice, his first time up. And Ryan looking to deliver a hit that could give his team the lead. Change up on the ground. They're going to come home. Brad Ezekiel scrambling, and he'll dive back safely. Looked to be absolutely a for sure out. So we know he can hit, and showed great intelligence to avoid the tag.
Look how close he is to the plate, and now just that pump fake right there, but he literally took Derek Arseny down to his knees with that little pump fake.
So Laskowski, for a second time, came home. Remember, he threw out a runner earlier going home in the game. In Blair Ezekiel, or Galway would have recorded the game's first run. 1 out, bases loaded, the infield in.
Well, it's a pinch runner over at first, too. I believe that's Liam Shea. That has gone on to pinch run for Ryan Boland over at first. Yeah, infield in again.
Kyle Ezekiel with the bases loaded against Devin McCullough. Popped it up, but it'll get out of play. Critical spot in this game. And while we have not seen all of them, needless to say, because they've been played at more than just this diamond, but hard to imagine, Blair, that we're not witnessing the game of day number 1.
I think so. This is 2 evenly matched teams here. There have been a couple of lopsided scores through the early games. This one and the next one both promise to be much closer affairs.
Kyle had 1 run batted in last year. And that will cash in a run to tie the game.
If you're going to swing at a ball on the infield, that's about the perfect spot to put it because it's far too close to the mound for the second baseman to come get it and to make a play. And Devin McCullough, with the backhand flip out of the glove, takes care of Kyle Ezekiel, but he does get the RBI on the ground out.
So as the next few innings unfold, file the rundown miss for Saskatoon in the memory bank. Saskatoon should be out of the inning, but they're not.
And those are the little things on which games can turn. You're absolutely right that is one to file away. Right now we're tied.
Runners at second and third for Sheldon Keogh. Struck out in his first at-bat versus McCullough, but had 2 extra base hits earlier today and fouled that back. Derek Arseny, the veteran catcher, played in many Canadian Senior Men's Championships. And Devin McCullough trying to work his way out of trouble in a 1-1 tie in a battle of teams with 1-0 records on day one. And now Arsini wants to confer the runner at second base. You want to make sure your signs are correct. 2 strikes on Keogh. And if there's anything in this sport, or the sport of baseball, I'm never a fan of, is giving up 0-2 base hits.
Long throw.
Hudson threw a rope from deep at short, and a very close play.
He goes a long way to get this ball. Big high hopper, almost to the bag at third, and dug out real nice over there by Brett Casey, but Sheldon Keogh able to lug that out for a base hit and an RBI.
That is at least his 3rd run batted in of the day. And Galway comes right back and has now taken a 2-1 lead. And another bang play over at first. Hudson with a very strong throwing arm. Pitch gets away. Shea thought about it, made the right move. Arsini did well to get back to the screen in a hurry to save what could have been another run.
And there is a plexiglass backstop there in behind the mesh. You can see it there on the center field shot. It runs across 2 panels, and when the ball hits that, it's going to come back quickly. So that's a bit of a members bounce there for Derek Arsini.
McCullough looking to settle down and throws a good pitch. Swung on and missed by Gill, who struck out to start the bottom of the 3rd.
Yeah, that's the power rise ball. Look for them to go back one more time with that pitch.
Well, when that's in on the hands, another almost impossible pitch to hit. That one not on the hands, but was not easy to hit. 3 hits, 2 runs, and it's 2-1. The Galway Hitmen in an excellent game here at Softball City. Two-1 for the defending champions from Newfoundland, the Galway Hitmen, a softball dynasty. Won every Canadian championship that has been played going back to 2011, with the exception of the 2018 tournament, or the 2017. Blair, I cannot get 17 and 18 correct today. I know that East Hants won one of them, and it is 17, not 18. I do not know why that's such a sticking point today, but it is.
And it was in Saskatoon, too.
I know. But you know what the difference was? For a rare time, I wasn't at it.
It might have been the only one you've missed in Saskatoon.
I haven't missed miss very many, at least up until about the year 2010. And there's been a lot of major events played in that city.
Well, they'll get to renew their love affair with the Canadian National Tournament
next
too.
year.
My understanding is it's going to be back there next year, indeed.
Well, maybe I'll be lucky enough to get invited back.
Well, maybe the two of us will be so lucky.
Well, that would be awesome. I can stand late August in my hometown. Talking about my hometown, Darren McCullough, the Saskatoon Angels, trying to respond after giving up a couple in the bottom of the fourth. And Colin Walsh has other ideas as he records another strikeout. Number 5 to start the top of the 5th. Shortstop Jordan Hudson. Change up, off the glove, Boland into the dugout.
Yeah, a bit of an ill-advised throw there by Shane Boland because it was well wide of the mark and it actually went through the open gate in and out of the dugout, and that's an extra base for Jordan Hudson.
So goes off of Ezekle's glove at third.
Well, the argument now that the Galway guys are making is that gate's supposed to be closed. And if it just hits the gate, he probably doesn't get the extra base.
And they have a beef.
Yeah. Unless it sailed through a gap, but I don't think there's a gap. But it clearly went into and out of the dugout.
Jordan Hudson standing at second, hoping he will continue to remain there. I think that would be a base hit.
I would go base, well, maybe on Kyle Ezekle. It may have been an error.
Unless you're going to give Ezekle the error, and maybe you would.
Yeah, they just did.
And they just did. So Hudson reaches on an error.
Unless they gave the error on the throw to Boland. But I don't know that he was going to get him even if he does make a good throw. So I think the error is on Ezekle there.
Or is it on Boland? Because he's not at second base if the ball isn't thrown away.
Well, that's a fair point.
So it might be a hit and an error there, which is possible. Runner in scoring position, the tying run.
Yes, you are correct. The error is what gave him the overthrow because they've got 3 hits on the board, so that's their 3rd hit of the game.
So Hudson with a hit and over to second on the error. And a chance for first baseman Brett Casey to drive in a run. Quick snap throw.
Kevin Wallace was calling obstruction on Shane Boland as he was directly in Jordan Hudson's path to get back to the base. He got there anyway, but Kevin had the arm out for obstruction.
Boland to Boland with a little block. Triple B. Brett Casey. Chance to tie the game. Walsh quickly ahead in the count. 0-2. Casey, 35 years of age, in his 5th Canadian championship. And actually, that is strike 2. It's 4 for 15 in last year's Canadian championship with a double, a home run, and 2 runs batted in. And goes down swinging to end the top of the 5th. Saskatoon threatens, but shut down. And the Galway Hitmen in front, going to the bottom of the 5th, 2-1 on day one of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship.
Where was the...
Shane Boland, top of the order. 3 hits for each team. And the Galway Hitmen leading the Saskatoon Angels 2-1. Shane has reached on a walk and then grounded out to Taylor Hill over at third. Hudson's got a strong arm, but gets away from Casey. Hit into the gap between third and short. Nice job by Hudson to get to it.
And watch the hustle by Shane Boland out of the box here, too. He's going hard right from the first step.
And the Angels will, I think, be given their first error of the game. Nothing up on the board as of yet. I'm sure Mr. Boland would think otherwise and might have beat it flat out. So that's a really tough scoring play to start the bottom of the fifth.
Shane will be cheering for the hit
Yes.
all the way.
Yeah, there's no question.
Nope, they went with the error. You talked them into it.
Don't blame me. Sacrifice by Pomeroy is a good one. Second sacrifice bunt that's been executed by Galway. And great reception at the dugout, which I also love to see in a sport where laying down bunts isn't as critical or used as often anymore.
No, it is, as my friend Joe Todd would say, a lost art. It is a power game today, absolutely. And very, very rarely are guys in the middle of the order called upon to bunt. Jordan Pomeroy hits at the top for his club team, batting second here for the Galway Hitmen. You would think that that is a traditional bunting spot, but in the modern game, your 2 spot is actually usually your best contact hitter.
Brad Ezekiel, another hit tonight. Scored a run. And the reason he scored the run was because of his ability to avoid getting caught in a rundown. Takes a change up. Arsini with a good block behind home plate.
You remember when you played pickle as a kid?
Pickle?
Pickle. You were caught in the middle and you were the pickle.
we didn't, we called it something else. We didn't call it pickle.
But rundown, same idea.
We played that all the time.
Yeah. Brad Ezekiel just won.
Oh, and it's not easy to win. And you probably shouldn't win it at this level. But he did. And takes the drop down and in for ball 2. And you get the sense this guy's feeling it again. 7 home runs, 15 runs batted in 1 year ago. There's a home run already today. I believe he ended up with 2 hits in the first game. Maybe 3, but 2 for sure. The home run and a ball that absolutely ate up Eric Ginallo at short.
Yeah, it was on base all 3 times, reached on an error, double and a home run, 2 runs scored.
And it's going to reach base this time. And with a base open, I'm not giving that guy anything to hit either.
Well, there's no easy outs with this Galway team, but you're right. If you've got a base open and you can avoid pitching to Brad Ezekiel, that's not a bad idea. You set up the force here with Colin Walsh at the plate.
He's from Petty Harbor, 31 years of age, and tonight's starting pitcher, and an excellent hitter. He might have been Canada's best hitter at the most recent World Championship. He was 6 for 20, batted .300, 2 home runs.
Well, I think other than Quentin Bruce, I think you'd be right, and especially in the championship game, Colin Walsh and Ryan Boland were the only 2 who got anything moving against Jack Besgrove whatsoever. The 2 of them accounted for both the Canadian runs in that gold medal game.
Quentin Bruce absolutely blew me away at the World Championships. Hadn't really had an opportunity to see much of him prior to that event. He is an outstanding hitter.
Yeah.
Gets away from Arsini, and both runners move up a base.
We'll see Quentin Bruce a little bit later this week with the Bear Creek Express, but last year, an unprecedented season. All Canadian, all American, all world at the ISC, and all world at the WBSC World Cup. Never been done before. Now, it's the first time they've done an all world at the WBSC, but I don't think anybody has ever even done the Triple Crown, never mind all 4 of them.
Well, there was a point in time that I'm old enough to remember where if you were a Canadian, you couldn't play in the American Championship, or could you always?
It's been off and on. I mean, we were just talking off air, going back all the way to the 1940s when a Canadian team won the USA National Championship, Toronto Tip-Top Tailors. But there was a time where the U.S. was closed to foreign players, and the Canadians have always been that way. It's been only Canadians and Canadian residents. But of late, the last decade at least.
Yes, for absolute sure.
Yeah, the U.S. National has essentially been an open tournament. The previous decade, it was much more restrictive.
I think what might have been the case, Blair, at the time that I'm thinking about, might have been restricted to just pitchers. So you could be a pitcher at the ASA if you weren't an American. I'm not sure you could be as someone other than a pitcher, but I'd have to double check that.
Yeah, that might have been the case in the 90s. I think you may be right on that one.
Full count to Walsh, trying to help himself and help his group. And stays alive and takes a bite out of Arsini. Colin Walsh had 6 runs batted in last year's tournament, 7 runs batted in, and 3 home runs in 2019, and hit a very impressive .357 at the ISC World Tournament in Wisconsin for the runner-up Bear Creek.
Named an all-world player. He's batting .313 in the St. John's League, in addition to being 10-0 in the pitcher's circle.
He might be playing as well or hitting as well or both as he ever has in the last year. And remember, like everyone else, not always easy to go through a couple of years where you don't play due to COVID.
So bases loaded, another big spot here for Devin McCullough.
Game on the line right here.
And this is the guy who caught for Devin for most of the season.
Blair Ezekiel has doubled already in the game and then laid down, or tripled, and then laid down a beautiful sacrifice bunt, helping runners over to second and third that were both cashed in the 2-run bottom of the 4th for Galway. Can he deliver here again? Blair Ezekiel, bases loaded against Devin McCullough. Change up, fouled away.
And Blair may have been sitting on that pitch. He certainly wasn't out in front of it at all. He just fouled it off.
Teammates, as Blair referred to, with circle tap. And here comes the 0-2. Lifted high, very playable for Shirley. But it's deep enough. And Blair Ezekiel having a quality night of at-bats. A triple, a perfectly executed sacrifice that led to 2-run scoring, and now drives in a run with a sacrifice fly. That's good hitting.
Yeah, it was really good hitting. He got a pitch on the outside corner, hit it, as you said, deep enough to right to easily score Shane Boland. Good defense there by James Shirley. Didn't try to make the heroic throw to the plate, just hit the cutoff man and Laskowski. And they kept the force out at second in order as they kept Colin Walsh at first.
So a big run batted in for Blair Ezekiel. And it's the catcher, Ryan Boland, to swing and miss. And Brad Ezekiel will race home with his second run scored of the game, and it's 4-1.
Great instincts here by Brad Ezekiel. He was only a step off the bag, but his momentum was going forward, and he never stopped.
When you've done nothing but win, and you have the pedigree of so many of these players, mistakes will be very costly.
Well, we talk about that all the time. Against the top teams, when you make a mistake, they make you pay. Whether it's an extra out or a pass ball, a wild pitch.
Miss on a rundown.
It's an advantage to that team that they're going to take opportunity and take advantage of. And we've just seen it a couple of times here tonight already.
These are two really good teams. I mean, we certainly knew that coming in. But mistakes have been the difference. And that is just foul. And Brett Casey doesn't think so. And it was very close.
I beg to differ from our home plate umpire. You can clearly see that looked like it was on the fair side of the line there.
And the Angels dugout and the players in play, an unhappy bunch. Ooh, and they've got a point.
His momentum took him over into foul territory, but I think he played that on the fair side of the line, to be honest.
Well, this is an extra chance given by no fault of their own. And if karma's in the building, we'll see how it's handled. Ryan Boland stays alive with that swing.
Well, at the breaks that Galway has been getting, don't be surprised if Ryan Boland somehow singles through the right side in the 3.5 hole.
Or drives one out of here for a 2-run homer. And is it not 4-1?
It is. It's 4-1. It's 3-1 on the scoreboard here at the park. Luciano's got the score right on the scorebug on the screen.
Of course he does. The one-man band. And what a band it is.
Luciano Lafrano, our producer, and his wife, Carol Doreste, celebrated their 10th anniversary.
I saw that.
In Denmark, Wisconsin. Spent the last 2 years with us.
Just lovely people. They make me want to learn Spanish.
I'm trying. I'm up. I've got a couple more now. I started with Dos Cervezas, por favor, which I'm sure most people know.
Even as a non-drinker, I know that one. And another walk surrendered by Devin McCullough.
Blair Ezekiel is on to run for Ryan Bolin on the 2-out catcher replacement role. Blair's the last available batter.
And Kyle Ezekiel, change up. And it was an excellent one. Devin McCullough's had to work awfully hard in the last 2 innings.
He's thrown a lot of pitches the last 2 innings. These are the innings that wear you out.
The Toronto Batmen and the Souk Loggers coming up next. And that has potential to be a dynamite game as well. This has been an excellent game.
McCullough's now up to 88 pitches on the night, and we are 4 2/3 in.
How do I get that little friend on my phone?
Game changer.
I have it, but I can't quite access it the same way you do. Yet. Runners at first and second, 2 away. 2 runs already have crossed home plate. It's 4-1 for Galway. The high rise ends the inning. The Galway Hitmen now in command. Trying to go 2-0 on day 1 of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship.
Yeah, it's odd they've got it at 4-1 again. One meal for the day.
Well, we're talking about meals up here. And no one has really feasted on anyone in this game. But Galway has moved into control against a very good Saskatoon Angels team, leading it 4-1 as Colin Walsh has gone the distance and continues to work. The 31-year-old facing Derek Arsini, the catcher. Change up, fouled down the third base line.
Well, Galway got those 2 runs in the 5th, Peter, without the benefit of a hit. They had a reach on an error, a sac bunt, a walk, a couple of pass balls and wild pitches, another walk, a sac fly, and that's the 2 runs.
Four hits apiece, 1 error apiece, but a 3-run lead for Galway as Blair Ezekiel, that's Kyle, takes care of it. 12-21 and 11. I know who 11 is all the time. And I know who they are too.
Well, Blair is usually 21 unless he forgets his jersey. Then he's number 65.
Big swing after the pop out to Kyle. Devin McCullough, who's very good with the bat, has an infield hit in this game. And just about swung right out of his cleats on that 0-1 pitch. McCullough 1 for 2 in the game. And the rise misses high and outside. He talked about the intelligence of Colin Walsh. Ahead in the count. Back-to-back pitches that if a batter was going to make contact, it was going to be on his terms. And the count runs full. As Walsh went upstairs with a rise, but too high, and McCullough was able to lay off of it. Angels trying to get something going, trailing by 3 in the top of the 6th. Second game of the day for both teams. They both won their first games, and handily popped up. Kyle is there again, as in Ezekiel, and makes second straight out on a pop-up here in the 6th. And you sense that last half inning took a lot out of the Angels, who did have a 1-0 lead at one point. Good swing and just foul off the bat of Prince Albert, Saskatchewan's Matthew Kutnikoff, who has the lone run batted in for Saskatoon in the game. A bloop single into shallow center field that opened the scoring in the 4th. Kutnikoff is also grounded out to shortstop Shane Boland. Lefty on lefty.
Peter, our nightcap promises to be a good one. Toronto Batmen and the Souk Loggers. Tyler Randerson is penciled in as the starter for Toronto, and for Souk, it'll be Brady Woods.
The Souk lineup is more than capable of scoring a lot of runs. The only question I would have about their group, will they pitch well enough to really contend for a title here? Popped in the air. Keogh coming on. Gill going back. Ezekiel can't get there, and it's a 2-out double for Kutnikoff.
Well, that literally was the Bermuda Triangle as the three of them converged on it. I thought maybe Justin Gill was going to make another one of those desperation stabs where he just throws the glove out, hopes that the ball hits it and sticks. And I think that might have been what Sheldon Keogh was thinking. You saw him back off just at the last second coming from the right side of your picture frame there. And maybe he was backing off thinking that Gill was going to take that. But really, that should be the infielder pulling away from the outfielder who's got to call him off.
I'm not sure you could have gone and dropped a ball down in a better spot.
No, you literally could not have walked out there and placed it any better.
Hit hard, hit well, and off the fence for Leskowski. And Saskatoon not willing to go quietly. An RBI double for Justin Leskowski. I thought it had a chance to get out of here, and it nearly did.
Just off the fence, trades places with Kutnikoff, back-to-back doubles, one a bloop, one hard hit, and the Angels cut that lead in half.
So the tying run now at home plate in James Jimmy Shirley. And the drop from Walsh is a good one for strike one. Shirley is struck out and popped out to Justin Gill at second, his first 2 plate appearances. Chance to cut the gap to a run. Right back at Walsh. Laskowski gets Saskatoon a little closer. They still trail by 2 with the Galway Hitmen coming to bat when we return to Softball City. New pitcher working for Saskatoon as we return to the bottom of the 6th. It is another player who's performed for the Canadian national men's team, and Zach Pierce. Pierce threw earlier today in Saskatoon's opening game triumph. Couple of good changes right off the hop to Sheldon Keogh. So had a big day, not only with a single and RBI in this game, but 2 extra base hits that cashed in a couple of runs in the win over Vanderhoof, British Columbia, in the game that was played here prior to this one, and then the opening ceremonies. And Pierce comes on and makes an impact right off the bat, striking out Sheldon Keogh.
Great velocity from Pierce. Real good rise ball. Drop ball as well. And will throw the change. Had a great year in 2022 and was instrumental in helping Canada get into the gold medal game at the Pan Am qualifier. Had a rough outing at the North Palmerston tournament, and I felt didn't really ever recover from that. And I don't think he would feel that his season here in 2023 was as strong as it was in 2022.
Well, he'd love to work his way into a great position in terms of Canadian national team opportunities. Again, being from Saskatoon, the 28-year-old, with a couple of major world events slated for Prince Albert in 2024 and the World Cup of men's softball in 2025. I could show you around Prince Albert. I've been there once or twice.
I would love to be a part of that. Had the opportunity to go in 2018. Unfortunately, didn't get to make the trip. As making the trip there is Justin Gill.
I think that's a pinch hitter.
Oh, was it?
That is Mr. Marr.
Oh, yes, indeed.
The top batter at the U23 Canadian Championship in Saskatoon. Drives one up the middle of a Saskatoon product, Zach Pierce. Marr hit .667 and was the top batter at the U23 Canadians. and has a hit here at the senior men's version.
Well, and you really like the way that he was handling the bat in his pinch hit appearance in the previous game, and then he stayed in defensively too and made a nice play late in the game.
Well, Justin Gill's gone back in the game to run, but Marr does his job. Gill on the run and is thrown out by Arsini. Fine throw by the veteran catcher to get the attempted stealing Justin Gill. Is the tag put on perfectly. With the glove, not even the hand from Justin Laskowski. Doing a little of everything. The national team player playing over at second base. Saskatoon needs a pair when we return to Surrey, British Columbia on Softball Premier Television. The Galway Hitmen, the 3-time reigning champions, 8-time champions since 2012. Looking to improve their round-robin record to 2-0. Top 2 finishing teams in each pool will have an extra life when the playoffs start on Saturday. Darren McCullough, his third at-bat. He's 0 for 2 in the game. On a hop, and Justin Gill back in defensively, takes care of business, and there's one away. Last year's finalists, the Toronto Batmen, and the hosts, Souk Loggers, will wrap up day number 1 in our next game, and of course we'll have it for you right here on Softball Premier TV. Big swing and a miss from Jordan Hudson, who reached on an error his last time up, or actually had a base hit and then moved to second on the error. And Walsh with an excellent rise, swung on and missed by Hudson. Colin Walsh has given up 5 hits. And bearing down, recording another strikeout. I believe that's his 7th of the game. And now 1 out away from a complete game effort for the Hitmen. And this, I believe, is a pinch hitter. Looks like Mr. Osika, potentially to me.
Yes, Jesse Osika.
So I thought it was. Sometimes tough to tell. We are not in a position where we get the changes The official score is right down at field level here. And that's going to do it as Osika's first at-bat of the evening goes down. Another strikeout for Colin Walsh. A complete game 5-hitter. Did give up a couple of runs. His team committed 1 error. And a game that really lived up to its billing. And Blair, if I had to summarize it and looking for your closing thoughts, if ever there was a game where a good team capitalized on all their chances, it was this one. And thanks to Devin McCullough, they didn't have many.
Well, they didn't have many, but you go back to that 5th inning. They got 2 runs without the benefit of a hit. Some walks, a hit batter. They all come around to score on pass ball, wild pitches, and that's the difference in the ball game at the end of the day. And we talked about it during the game. You cannot give this team extra opportunities. The Angels did that tonight, and they paid for it.
When you hold the Galway Hitmen to 4 hits, you give yourself a great chance to win.
Yeah, they're going to look at this one as one that got away, but they're also going to be knowing in the back of their minds that they could have won this game.
Galway 4, the Saskatoon Angels 2. Saskatoon drops to 1-1. The reigning champions are 2-0. We'll sign off for now and be back with the nightcap. The host team, the Sault Loggers, will take on the Toronto Batmen. That's on your way and on your, hopefully, menu coming up in about 25 minutes. So long for now.
For the latest in softball innovation, the website where you can experience the best tournaments in the Americas. Live games, news, tournaments, and much, much more. The best quality live softball, on demand so you can watch when you want. Become a Premier member now. Softball Premier TV